Now, this Torah portion, as you remember from last week when I mentioned, it is one of the 13 chapters of Torah that are dedicated to building the Mishkan. Not the Moshkan, the Mishkan. And so today, here is one of the things that it says. ואתה הקרב אליך את אהרון אחיך ואת בניו איתו מתוך בני ישראל לכהנו לו לי. Now you have come near to you Aaron your brother and his sons with him from amidst the children of Israel to be priests for me. And so here now comes the mitzvah, the instruction. V'yasita bigdei kodesh leharon achicha lechavod uletifaret. You are to make garments, bigdei kodesh, holy garments, for Aaron your brother, for glory and for splendor. Of course, Hashem is speaking to Moshe and giving Moshe the instructions that will eventually be given to the Kohanim and the dress that they will wear. And so today I want to concentrate on clothing. And I'm wondering how many of you gave thought to what you were going to be wearing this morning here to the Zoomagog. You know, because several of you are waving. Absolutely. I see you, Meira, for sure. Yeah, but you know, we know the stories of people coming, you know, in their pajamas, you know, to Zoom gatherings, or maybe even not well clothed. Well, certainly that would have not gone over well in the Mikdash. Correct. So the Israelites are instructed to make holy garments for not just Aharon, but Bnei Aharon, the children of Aharon, who are going to be the Kohanim. And every week I say that we are, what? A Mamlechet Kohanim, which is why we should always give special attention to what we wear to be together here. So, wearing clothing. Here is the clothing that the Kohen Gadol would be wearing. Pretty spiffy, eh? As a matter of fact, he's not supposed to enter the sanctuary space unless he is dressed, I might say, dressed for success. Here's the breakdown of the high priest's golden garments. He shall have a linen turban, a breastplate of judgment, you see, with the 12 jewels that represent the 12 tribes of Israel. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, I was invited to be in a local play, the Christmas Revels, and I played the standard bearer for the Jewish tradition, and I said to the costume designer, you know what? You need to make my costume to look like the Kohen Gadol. And so you see, he's got the cap on, the kepi, the linen turban, and there is, of course, the jewels bespeckling his breastplate. This is a little bear I took home from auction. They made bears to represent the three main characters in the show. So back to our regularly scheduled program. Many other things that the Kohen's garments were going to include, including, if you look at the bottom left, it says pomegranates and gold bells. Well, they weren't like pomegranates. They were bells in the shape of pomegranates with gold bells within them. And then a number of other things, of course. Clothing can make a statement. We know that, especially in this case. But what about in this case? What is this guy trying to say? I couldn't help but notice the fashion wear that came out of Milan, you know, from Fashion Week. Or this one. I'm not sure whether she's wearing that out to dinner or this one. Maybe to breakfast. Looks like a nice baguette with some eggs over easy. So clothing can make a statement. I'm not quite sure what statement this clothing is trying to make. But other clothing makes other statements. who we are, what we identify with, and what maybe, in this case, what we're going to do. So there's me and Todd all dressed up to go to a Washington Nationals baseball game. To the right, and that's my father and my uncle Irving. They were twins and they played basketball together. And you can see that's my father's on the right and Uncle Irving is on the left. And you see, Irving is wearing the number 6. My father wore the number 9, and one day one of them fouled out of the game, but the other person had to leave, and so they changed uniforms. And the person who needed to leave, he left, giving the other person who had fouled out the number that he was wearing. They played a lot of kinds of tricks like that. Continuing, dress. That's our daughter, Mo, dressed for success as an equestrian. And on the right, I'm dressed for Halloween during my student teaching days. And my beloved mentor, Mrs. Coutant, dressed me up as Raggedy Andy. So we might dress up for certain festivals, as we will for Purim. I'm dressed here, 5 different pictures of me. This was my resume cover when I was, a child actor. So you see, dressed in different apparel, this time to express different emotions. The upper left, there's the pensive Mark, the happy Mark in the middle, dressed in a shirt and jacket and tie. Country Mark, maybe more serious Mark, lower right, and I'm not quite sure what the other one is, but there I am. And then here's my bar mitzvah. Of course, I am dressed as the bar mitzvah boy, as all bar mitzvah boys are dressed in the same manner. And I think this picture is in everybody's photo album from the 1960s. Continuing in the upper left, that's me at our retreat last year, of course, dressed in talis and tefillin. So sometimes what we wear, of course, is dressed for the ritual that we are engaged in. And in the lower right, that's me, shirt and tie, dressed as the band leader of my band. And we always wear black shirts. And I sometimes would call the band Mensch in Black. Here I'm on the mall. As a matter of fact, somewhere near me was Janice and Charles and Renee, and we met up with these the drum and fife corps, and of course they're dressed for ritual, to perform their task. I don't think that they are wearing those clothing all the time. And now here from last year's retreat, you'll have to ask Jay what he is dressed for, and also DDK. But here we are as a nice advertisement for this year's retreat. Be there or be square. There are indeed other references to clothing in the Torah, besides that Aaron and the Kohanim should be dressed as we already discussed. Here's one of them, dating all the way back to the 3rd chapter of Bereshit. Vatipachna einei shnehem, the eyes of the two of them, meaning who? Meaning Adam and Chava, were opened, right? Pakach, their eyes were open. V'yad'u ki arumim hem, they were naked. They saw themselves without clothing. And so what did they do? They sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. That's the first mention of clothing at all, to cover perhaps their shame of being seen in that way in the garden. And then maybe the most famous example of clothing in the Torah. Vayisrael ahav Yosef mikol banav. Yisrael loved Joseph above all of his sons, for he was a son of old age to him. V'asalo katonet pasim, so he made him an ornamented tunic, the coat of many colors. This, of course, led to great jealousy, and this, of course, led to his brothers selling him into Egypt, and this piece of clothing, of course, led to us being slaves in Egypt for 400 years. So sometimes clothing can have a domino effect on our present and our future. Magicians wear clothing. Magicians wear clothing to deceive. to turn our gaze in a different direction so that we don't see the magic that is about to happen. Well, you might be interested in the following. Well, actually, there's one other example I needed to get to first. V'tikach Rivka et bigdei Esav. So there's that Shoresh again, Bet Gimel Daled, Beged, Bigdei, the clothes of her son Esav. Rivka took the garments of Esav, her elder son, the choicest ones that were with her in the house, and what did she do? She clothed Yaakov. She clothed Jacob, her younger son, V'talbish et Yaakov, with the skins of the goat kids. She clothed his hands and the smooth parts of his neck. And of course, what does that lead to? That leads to the stealing of the blessing. And here Yaakov is saying the voice is Yaakov. Isaac is saying the voice is Yaakov's voice, yet the hands are Esav's hands. Was he confused? We're not quite sure whether he knew for sure who he was giving the blessing to, but certainly Rivka does her best to deceive her husband. And so here we are. The word beged. The word beged, as in Bigdei Kodesh, what the priests are to be clothed in, holy garments. Beged means clothing in modern Hebrew as well. An article of clothing, a garment. Begadim in the plural, clothes. But what else does the shoresh be used for? It's the following word. And I think Devorah is saying it as we speak. Bagad, boged, to engage in treason, to betray, to deceive. Or, interestingly, I discovered to cheat on a spouse. Ashamnu. What is this the beginning of? It's the beginning of the vidui, the confessional, right? During Yom Kippur. Ashamnu. We are guilty, and then in alphabetical order, as we go in the vidui, right, bagadnu. We have deceived. And so here again we have the connection between clothes and the word and the shoresh beged and the possible usage of clothing to deceive. So how does this play itself forward? After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, the rabbis of old take the clothing and they transfer it on to something else. In these three examples, the crown that is holy to God, it says Kodesh Lashem right here across the brow of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest. You have the crown, you have the breastplate, you have the bells. Where do we now find that? We find it on the Torah. And we adorn our Torah as we would adorn the high priest. Isn't that wonderful? How we have constantly in our history made lemonade out of lemons. That we have made rabbinical Judaism out of Torah Judaism. And now as we make our way to Zoomism, or whatever it is that we might call this, we also are part of this amazing paradigm shift. Finally, the Torah calls on us to don a symbolic mitznefet, a crown, and see ourselves as Kodesh Ladonai and act on it. These comments are from Rabbi Michael Siegel of Anshe Emet in New York. So here we have the crown. The Torah calls on us to don a figurative choshen, a breastplate, and appreciate our responsibilities to one another, from our family to our people to all humanity. There's the crown. Here's the choshen. And finally, the rimonim. A rimon is a pomegranate. The rimonim are the bells. The Torah calls us to don the symbolic bells, the rimonim, and to act towards one another with derek eretz, with civility, to consider the feelings of others when we speak and when we act, to display empathy in the way that we listen and in the way that we judge. So, my sweet friends, may this Shabbos day, and every Shabbos day, and maybe every day, we infuse with holiness, Kodesh Lashem. May we adorn ourselves not to deceive, but to beautify ourselves, and by doing so, beautify ourselves in the image of God as the walking and breathing Torah scrolls that we are. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.